Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. Could we have roll call, please?
Present.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Present. We are all here. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held back on December 18th. Does anybody have any questions or comments or changes? If not, a motion to approve as submitted would be in order.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Campbell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Paff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is an informal review request from Liberty Point Residences for a project contemplated to be at the northeast corner of Route 21 and Wood Lake Boulevard.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So North Point Development is seeking informal feedback on a plan to construct a 40-unit affordable housing facility on approximately 2.2 acres located at the northeast corner of Route 21 and Wood Lake Boulevard. The development targets the community's low-income workforce, which earns 30% to 80% of Lake County's median income. The property is currently zoned O1 PUD, restricted office, as a planned unit development and is subject to a 1998 PUD as well as Wood Lake plat of subdivision recorded in 1999. To accommodate a 40-unit multifamily project, the petitioner intends to rezone the property from O1 PUD to R6 straight zoning and request a variation for the maximum allowable density in the R6 district. The subject parcel is surrounded by established multifamily residential areas, Wood Lake Apartments to the north and east, and Gurnee Glen Apartments to the south, as well as vacant single-family residential parcels to the west, which support the zoning transition from office to multifamily residential. This parcel is part of the Washington-Milwaukee sub-area on the village's comprehensive land use plan. The sub-area plan also leverages the existing multifamily developments along Wood Lake Boulevard and encourages the expansion of this development type onto adjacent sites, including the subject property. Regarding the density, the R6 zoning district would allow a total of 29 dwelling units for the site, or 13.18 dwelling units per acre. The plan proposes 40 units for a density of 18.18 dwelling units per acre. Please note that the subject parcel has remained vacant for years and has proven challenging to develop due to its relatively small size and physical constraints created by multiple street frontages and significant setbacks, buffers, and easements recorded on the site. These factors limit the buildable area on the lot, making a higher density necessary to achieve an economically viable project. Since distributing the packet, PZB packet, the petitioner updated the site plan and addressed all minor staff comments that were reflected in the staff report. Please find the revised site plan printed in front of you. The applicant is in attendance to walk the PZB through their revised plans, and any feedback you can provide this afternoon will help, this evening, sorry, will help determine the next step for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrian. Just a reminder to everyone, this is an informal discussion. It's an opportunity to provide feedback. No decisions or recommendations are going to be made this evening. So at this time, I'll turn the floor over to North Point. If you could please use the microphone.
No, I can drive, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. pleasure to meet the folks that I got to meet before the meeting. Nice to meet all of you that I hadn't. My name is Jake Victor. I am the Vice President of Development for North Point Development II Corporation. Our company builds affordable senior housing and workforce housing throughout the state of Illinois. And we are here this evening to discuss our newest proposal, which is at Zero Wood Lake Boulevard here in the village of Gurnee. If we could go to the next slide here. You can keep going. You can skip through these. This is just some background on us as a company. We've been around for about 15 to 20 years. Here's a couple different projects that we've developed. If you want to go back. So once again, Liberty Point Residences. We're proposing this as a 40-unit workforce housing development at Zero Wood Lake Boulevard. Like Adrian mentioned, the comprehensive plan calls out this site for future multifamily development. While it's currently zoned for office, as we all know, no one's really building office anymore. It sounds like there have been some folks over the years that have looked at building office there and have not been able to get their projects to move forward. So multifamily seems to be a fairly appropriate use based off the comprehensive plan as well as the surrounding uses. Here's a look at just an interesting note, existing affordable and workforce housing projects here in the village of Gurnee. On the right-hand side, you'll see some different points on the map. Those are the different affordable and workforce housing developments throughout the community. Pretty much all of them are senior housing. Right now, the village has little to no inventory of workforce housing for folks earning 30 to 80% of Lake County median income. And as you all know, and as your comprehensive plan points out, that's a huge detriment to being able to provide housing for the folks that work here in the community and economic viability and mobility for folks. On the left hand of the screen there, you'll see the Illinois Housing Development Authority comes up with several different tools to help us understand needs in communities and specific areas of communities especially. And the Illinois Housing Development Authority reviewed that area where our subject site is and gave it a 5 on their affordability risk index scale. The higher you score on that census tract, the more risk of affordability and limited affordability there is in that area of the community. So as you see, it's a 5 on a scale of 0 to 5. So the affordability risk is incredibly high in that area, and the need pretty significant. You all are very familiar with the area, of course. There was Gurnee Glen next door that was approved a year or two ago. That's a 3-4-story building, and then there's the Wood Lake Residences nearby. So this is our proposal, 40 units, combination of 1, 2s, and 3-bedroom units. Rent anticipated right now between $600 and $1,200 a month, depending on which unit it is, a 30, 50, 60, or 80% of area median income unit. Significant parking on the site, in my opinion. The site's significantly overparked, but we are doing that to meet the village's requirements and are able to do so and still provide the number of units on the site and in the project that we need to in order to secure the housing tax credits to fund the development, as well as make it financially feasible. These are just a variety of different points. I'll give you a brief overview. As part of building workforce housing, you have to own the property for a period of 15 years at a minimum. Our company's been around, like I said, about 20 years now. We've never sold a property that we've owned. The affordability requirement is a minimum of 30 years. And we typically, we look forward to opting into extending that period on projects that we've developed. Property taxes, current projection is about $80,000 a year. The building will be LEED Zero certified. That's something that, North Point takes very seriously, creating communities that, emphasize the health and well-being for our residents. Like Adrian in the report mentions, this is a 3-story building, 45 feet, And those are the main points. Keep going. Just a look at the first, second, and third floor plans. I'm about to show you a couple different renderings and also a couple different photos of projects that we've developed to get a good feel as to, kind of what we're thinking here. We don't have a rendering for this specific project put together yet, given the point in the process that we're in. But this is our project in Palatine, Illinois. And these are a couple other developments that we've built. That's a project going up in McHenry right now. That's a 50-unit development. And here's the look at interior finishes that we typically include. Nice LVP flooring in the units, quartz countertops, sustainability, so that's solar, EV charging stations, stainless steel appliances. And this is a look at our development timeline. We are here this evening, kind of going through the conceptual process. We are going to submit our application to the Illinois Housing Finance Authority, Illinois Housing Development Authority in March. We'll hear about our funding in June, come back to finish entitlements in July, and then close and start construction in June of 2026. It's a pretty lengthy process to get all of our funding lined up. That's my contact information. At this point, I guess, the point of us being here is to hear from you all, to get feedback, thoughts, comments, questions answered as we kind of kick off the process on this site.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Who'd like to start? Dave, would you like to start?
I can. Just a couple comments.
Okay, go ahead.
The location I really like. It's so close to the Interstate 94. I think to me it would be a great attraction. Close to nice restaurants down Riverside and that area there. So I think it's very attractive. I'm not sure, is there room for all that parking?
Yeah, I mean, we've got 90 stalls placed on the site there. It's a discussion for us to have when we submit our formal application, and feedback that I'd be more than happy to hear this evening. We're currently at a 2.25 parking ratio. If you go back to that slide that had all those points on it.
Jake, you need to stay by the microphone.
Sorry, I can't see that. How many on the bottom left? There says how many
91 off-street parking?
in the small text.
Portfolio shows need of 56 stalls.
Yeah, so based off of, our 2,000 plus units that we've developed, 20 plus projects, we're showing a need for about 60 stalls. I don't think I'd come to you all and say, hey, I want a parking variance to reduce to 60 stalls. I think I could find somewhere in between. But if that's something that you all would entertain, it's something that, I think would be incredibly reasonable, especially given the incomes and the parking needs associated with those households.
And I add that the code requirement is also 72 spaces.
Okay. Dave?
Well, first of all, from a land use standpoint, I completely agree that this is appropriate for multifamily rather than office. We've had other opportunities to look at projects in the village over the last number of decades where higher densities have been requested and whatnot. And I would like to ask staff, if they happen to know or happen to have done an assessment, to give us an idea on anything similar to this from a multifamily standpoint. Have we already built things in the village of Gurnee that approach this level of density for this size site, or just this level of density period?
So I'm very new to, tell you which development happened, but based on my understanding of our density, so far there have been a lot of developments that as part of the planned unit development, higher densities were approved, and density almost for a lot of multifamily residentials have been the issue. Not all, but a lot of them, and it was addressed as part of the planned unit development. Village, as of now, prefers to, depart from approving more planned unit developments and go with straight code as much possible as we can, but for this development, again, because of the limitation in, a lot of areas that are setbacks, a lot of areas, so it has to be all compact in like small spot. So, and the property was not actually included in AR Homes building, development before, so it's a standalone right now, and it would be even harder than before to be developed as part of a standalone project. So, but to answer your question, that has been the problem before. That was mostly addressed as part of PUDs. That's as far as I know. But I cannot compare another development with this, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Right. So, in the past, we've had situations where, we've been asked to consider these higher densities, and when we challenge the developers on it, the statements are typically like, well, this is the only way that the project becomes economically viable. And I look at that sometimes and I say, well, first of all, I wonder whether that's the economic side of it is something that really is a conversation that this body should have versus just talking about the actual physical land use part of it. So I tend to sometimes initially want to push back on requests for significantly higher densities only because it benefits the profitability of the developer that wants to develop that site. Because we need to look at it from the standpoint is like, okay, you're going to develop a site and you're going to profit from it, and that's fine. But we as a village have to then say, well, what do we have to live with as a village? Whether it's those that live around the area or those that actually will live on that site. It's hard for me to judge sitting here what 18 units, per 18 units per acre is going to feel like versus others immediately adjacent that might be 13 or as low as 10, and what that difference, how that really ultimately will impact. I'd just be speculating, I think, at this point from a traffic standpoint or a quality of life standpoint. I look at this, for instance, and I see we've maxed out the site with parking lot and building. There's really not open space and things, other quote-unquote amenities that might be things that can be exchanged in hopes for quality of life, that type of thing. So I don't know if we should be, arm wrestling on the economic side of it. I do think it's appropriate, and it looks like it'd be a well-built property, but I just want to question whether we all should be in the debate about.
Can I chime in here?
Yeah,
if you
sure.
mind? So I think something that's in the report is a discussion about how we've kind of gone through a significant process already of, hey, this is what the village would like to see as few variances to our code as possible. So we actually started with this project at 50 units, and I dropped it down to 40 units. We started as a 4-story building, dropped it down to 3 stories, started at 46 feet, dropped it down to 45 feet. So I think already there's been a process where I've been very, very reasonable and very willing to amend the project to fit more with the context of that area. And as a workforce housing project, I don't know if you guys are going to believe me or not, but the profitability is kind of locked in on these projects. If I go build a 60-unit project, there's a max amount of profitability that we're allowed to receive as part of doing these projects. So it's not an issue of that as much on these. It's more of an issue of making the land is really expensive, construction costs are really high, the financing that I can go get is also pretty locked in. I have to go compete with about 12 different other projects throughout the state. Actually, it's about 20 other projects throughout the state to get this project moving forward. How do I compete with those? There's a whole scoring rubric that we go through to maximize the score and likelihood of this project moving forward. So there's been a pretty significant lift already to kind of dial into the minimum number of units that we want to build on the site or can build on the site. And I think, I just hope the Plan Commission saw that part of the report as well.
Mr. Nordentoff pointed out one of the points that I had, and I do get that you guys have made a lot of concessions already, but one of the lines that I highlighted was the increased density is critical to make the project work financially viable for the developer. It says nothing about taking care of the citizens around us, you know,
Sure.
the other residents. So that was something that kind of stood out to me too. It's making it financially viable for you, but what about those around it?
Yep.
I'm not completely opposed to this. I think it's not too overdone here, but there are a lot of concessions being made. If I'm reading this right, they're talking about going to straight R6, is that correct?
Yes.
So what is preventing them from changing these setbacks once we rezone it to R6?
Sorry, so once we rezone it to R6, you said,
What prevents them from moving outside of these setbacks that they're pointing out here?
oh,
I mean, straight R6 has completely different setbacks than what's they're proposing.
yeah, the subdivision plat though, which has the hardest setbacks, that doesn't go away with like change from PUD to straight zoning. That still
Oh,
is
those-
recorded on the site.
Oh, okay.
So doesn't matter if it is PUD or straight code, they have to follow that anyways.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Yeah.
So it becomes part of the ordinance when the. with the
Yeah, it
sub-
was recorded as part of
Okay.
that
I was
subdivision.
afraid all that was going away because they were going to straight R6 and getting rid of the PUD. So I understand now. The other thing that hit me right off the bat is I was a little concerned anyway about the 153 units that went in Gurnee Glen as far as bringing traffic to the area. There's no stoplight at Wood Lake on the south end. And we haven't seen at all what Gurnee Glen is going to do to the traffic in the area because it's not complete. I don't think there's any units open yet, is there?
No,
They're
they are.
taking
I think I saw a sign that said that they're now exploring
renting?
leasing.
I think they're leasing, but I don't think they're actually.
I was just by there, they're not open yet.
No, yeah, they are not,
Nothing's
they are
occupied.
not still, they are still in process of permitting. It's,
Right.
I don't
So-
think they got their occupancy yet.
So for me, I would have liked to have seen what Gurnee Glen brought as far as traffic and how it was going to, the intersections there were going to handle it. Adding another 40 units before we even see what happens with the 153 we just added seems a little tough to me. I don't know what's going to happen even with what's going on there. So that did worry me. I think the project looks good, and I would definitely like to see this rezoned. I don't ever see office going back in there, but anyway, that was my points.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, I appreciate it.
Todd?
Just some brief comments. I applaud you for providing affordable housing. It's much needed. I think even your slide indicated that. I have maybe a question for staff. The whole subdivision, if you take the whole acreage, you know, the dwelling units per acreage total for everything, I think the 153 units was 13.42. The other one was, the 260 units was 10.3. This would be 18.8. You add them up, divide through by 3, you're getting around 14 dwelling units per acre. Would that be something that we would consider as part of the whole project, or would that be considered as for, they wouldn't need would be considered high density at that point in time, or is it just each individual building that we have to consider?
Yeah, so because of the way the lots are divided, like imagine like a developer comes and would like to develop like 3 of the lots out of like, for example, 8. So we consider those 3 lots as the total lot area and, go with like, how many units they are proposing within that total lot area, 3 out of like, 8. So this parcel has been left out. It's pretty small. So for basically a lot of multifamily developments probably will have the same issue for density in this location. Yeah.
Yeah, my concern is the same as the other commissioners about traffic. If I remember right, the other development did a traffic study, and maybe we can get an updated to that study or something with the additional people. My understanding, during that study, they didn't think that that was an issue, but if it is going to be an issue, we might want to address that somehow. And then I think if you don't need the 90-some parking spots, then maybe you can develop something where you have more green area for people to be there, to use, instead of having asphalt all over the place or whatever. Just somehow that it makes it more conducive, because right now it's all nicely landscaped over there and it kind of blends in with everything. But if we're going to put something there, then maybe something of that nature would be beneficial.
Adrian, is that something we can indeed do, is reduce to 72
Yes.
stalls? Okay.
Yes.
So that's
If
something
you, if you successfully rezone to R6 straight
Gotcha.
zoning, yeah.
Yeah, then that's something that we'll definitely be revising on the site plan, unless there's some opposition here. When we had the initial concept, it made a lot of sense to do this 4 stories, and actually, I was trying to make this one of our most landscaped projects that we've done, with some really cool walking trails and green space and playground space and community gardens. So now reducing back to 72 would allow me to add all that back in. Because to your point, and I think it was in my presentation and in my remarks, the livability for our residents is one of the most important things for us. That's why we're pursuing a LEED Zero certification, trying to do solar and having community space and fitness room space in these large units. It really is about livability for these residents. We just opened this project in Palatine, and I think it's really raising the bar in terms of affordable housing in the state, and the residents moving in, who some of them are paying, $600 a month, were just flabbergasted and blown away by just the quality of our projects. And I invite any of you to reach out to me and come tour Palatine and see kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about affordable housing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I think, if this comes back around, I would like to see one of the projects, whether that's Palatine, or I think did you say Mundelein as well? You're doing one right now?
We're working on a project right now in McHenry. And
McHenry, I'm sorry. So McHenry, either one of those projects would be beneficial. And Todd hit my point right on the head. If this is something that can go to 72, I was going to ask you if you were going to do more building or more green space. And it sounds like, I think I would be looking for more green space in the project, more so than building associated with that.
I'm right there with you.
Question, that's their project, but like on the median income, is that individual or household?
Yep, good question. So as part of this program, we designate each unit as either a 30, 50, 60, or 80% AMI unit. So those are pre-designated before we open. It's based off of the household that wants to rent that unit.
Okay, got it. Okay, and then, I get it. I think everyone here understands that this parcel is not going to be office. It's either going to sit the way that it is, or it's going to be developed as multifamily, contiguous with everything else that's around it. So, trying to figure a way to make it blend in to the balance of the projects and look as aesthetically pleasing as the other projects. I think if we could do something like that, it would fit into that corner, right? And again, there's sidewalk going there now. If it could be contiguous and just kind of blend in seamlessly to the balance of the project, I'd like to see that. I know you've made the changes, the curb cuts, the moving of the ingress and egress, eliminating an ingress and egress point to better utilize the site. Those are all good points for me. And the density is an issue, but I'm not sure, if you went non-affordable housing, you could easily probably do a project and charge $2,000 a month. right? Or 1,400 a month, 1,500 a
More
month,
than that.
whatever the
Oh,
case
yeah.
may be, and be similar to the balance of the projects there, but then you wouldn't have the affordable housing component, which I think we've talked about as a village for quite some time. So I would like to see the other projects and get to know your company a little bit better. Obviously, it's important to me that you do manage at least for 15 years. Coming from out of state is a big deal. I know it's not far out of state, you are next door, but.
I live in Illinois, by the way.
Okay, thank you. But we've seen other projects, I've read about when this came to me, I just started looking up and seeing what other projects have done in other states that have absentee ownership.
Yep.
And it's not good.
Yep.
So this is not something that we're looking to have if this goes forward in the village that's run by absentee owners that are not vested in the community.
That's not us, so I'd be honored to show you some of our other projects. I think you'll be very impressed.
Thank you.
Ronita?
I'm just a little curious about how you will attract people to this property to rent, because you're very specific about the income level of certain units that are going in. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different approaches from how your typical market rate developer approaches it in terms of posting it on apartments.com and the public domain, to reaching out to a variety of nonprofits and organizations to, seeing who they've been working with and if they need to be housed or have individuals that are looking for housing. So it really ranges. Similar to the income, right? Our 80% units are typically more leads from apartments.com, whereas our 30% AMI units are relationships that our management companies have with nonprofits and organizations throughout the county.
Okay. And then the other thing I think I read in your proposal that you're looking at some green space, some family space where there are tables, there are grills out there.
Yep.
Where is that on this?
Yeah, so we had that in the first proposal. Now we're gonna add it back because we're gonna be able to reduce the number
Fewer
of
parking
parking
spaces.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I think that's really key to the quality of life.
Yep, agreed. It's something I take pretty seriously too, so glad that we're able to do that with the parking.
Thank you.
Excuse me, from my perspective, I think we're all in agreement that office probably isn't going to happen there. And maybe potentially some other mixed uses could be there. But I think for us, I think we need more context. I think we need a better understanding of what other affordable housing stock we have in Gurnee, so we can assess what we have versus what our target is. Additionally, we just need to have documented for us in a concise presentation the other existing developments that we have, what the densities for those particular developments are. One question that I do have is would this put any pressure on the viability in terms of the other existing apartment complexes that are right across the street to get their market rents?
No, I mean, we build next to market rate housing
Okay.
almost all the time.
Okay.
And to speak to the need a little earlier, our Palatine project had 600 plus applications submitted. I think that just shows the need in the area, in the general area, for this type of product. It's pretty extensive.
Okay, I just need to have a healthier understanding of what that dynamic is.
Yep.
And I wholeheartedly agree with the comments about more green space. I mean, I look at this and it's building and it's concrete. And sounds like you can go down to 72 by code, but your experience tells you that you may be able to go down as low as 60.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've done in the past in situations where we're not totally sure is maybe have a concept where there's some land bank that could have less parking initially based on your past experiences, but develop it in such a way that there's land that you can expand the parking at a later date if you need to.
Awesome.
Okay. But I'm not hearing anything that is saying that there are like fundamental obstacles that can't be overcome here, so. Anybody else have any other comments? Okay, well, thanks
Great,
for
well, I
your,
appreciate it. Nice to meet you all.
okay, thanks for your time, appreciate
you.
your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a parking modification request by Imports Unlimited, proposed to be located at 4015 Grove Avenue.
So, Mr. Dino Soros, I hope I said it right, of Praxis Construction is seeking approval for a parking modification to allow the construction of a 6,215 square feet auto repair and service. Imports Unlimited is the brand, building on the vacant parcel at 4015 Grove Avenue. The PZB may recall the recent request for rezoning of the subject property from C2 PUD, Community Commercial as a planned unit development, to I2 PUD, General Industrial as planned unit development to accommodate the auto repair and service by right. Since then, Imports Unlimited has submitted its preliminary site plan, which meets all requirements and regulations except for parking. For a vehicle service and repair use, code requires a minimum of 5 parking spaces per service bay. With 14 service bays proposed, the business requires 70 parking spaces on the site, while 35 parking spaces will be provided, actually half of the required number. It is worth noting that the site is quite self-contained with a single curb cut on Grove Avenue, which minimizes traffic impacts on the neighboring commercial and residential properties. In addition, code requires a landscape buffer, a minimum of 30 feet in width, to be provided on the west side of the site where the subject industrial district abuts a commercial district. Meeting this buffer has significantly restricted the available space for additional parking spaces on the site. Please note that the PZB has decision-making authority in this matter. The petitioner is in the attendance to walk the PZB through their request and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Audrey. At this time, please use the microphone and,
Yes.
Gentlemen, my name is Dino Soros. I'm the owner of Praxis Construction. We're in business about 35 years. We tend to build Mr. Ted is the owner of the place, Oana is the architect, and my associate, Ms. Oana. We request on the design 14 doors, but you may know that place TI Imports from 41. This is strictly by appointment. The reason the owners request another 7 doors, because when the cars in, they repair high-end cars from Pebble Beach and so on. The cars go in for restoration. And half of them, I think we've sent some pictures, half of the place is strictly restoration. Some of the cars, they can stay there for 4 months. In addition, the rest of the customers, they're only by appointment. So there's no waiting for customers, and they are in business for a long time. And that's the reason simply we feel that this parking is good enough for the operation that we try to achieve.
okay. Who'd like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
My question, I mean, looking at this, I think that what they're looking at for parking spaces is probably adequate for their business, but what happens if they go out of business and something else wants to move in there? What happens then? Do they have to come back before us? They don't have to come back before us for review if...
Because my understanding is, I have the same concern. The parking modification relief, that goes with the property, right? It doesn't go with the business.
Parking modification, It depends on the business, actually. If, like, let's say another auto repair and service reaches out to us that we believe that, it's permitted by right, and it depends on the site plan, actually. I mean, I don't think, that's a hard question. If the business completely changes, the setting, the layout completely changes, I doubt that we can apply the same, interpretation that you had and you granted that parking modification to another business, auto repair and service, but like with a completely different layout, completely different demand, and allow them to be at this location. I believe it has to come back. If it was a PUD modification, for example, it was like a complete change for anything that would come in after now, but it is parking modification, it is minor for this business. That's what I believe it is.
You
So-
believe it stays with the business, not
I
with the
believe this
property?
one stays with the business.
So, okay.
That's my only concern, really, because I believe they have enough parking for what their business is. But if it turned into something that was doing oil changes in the same number of bays, I don't think they would have enough spaces.
Actually, I may reiterate, I feel like that is a possibility. If you approve this tonight for an auto repair service, another auto repair service may be able to use this very parking modification and, place 35 parking spaces for 14 bays. I believe actually that would be applicable to other businesses, other auto repair and service business.
If you allow me to make a comment, I have built several places. What we did in another project, we're willing to sign an affidavit if the place is ever be sold in a different type of operation, they have to rezone it. We can sign that if that satisfies the committee, if you like.
The rezoning is set, the
No, I
rezoning has
understand.
been done.
But let's
so-
say they want to sell it for a different type of operation. I had done it before, that we're willing to say if he decides to sell it, the new owners have to follow these requirements. It's up to you.
Yeah, I understand that, but because there is a planned unit development on the site, technically, this will be incorporated in that. So I have to change what I said first. Basically, when you approve this 35 parking spaces for 4015 Grove, another auto repair and service business would be qualified to move in without coming back to the PZB with the same parking requirement, with the same parking spaces provided on the site.
So a subsequent owner would know that the parking is limited and would be bound by that?
Yes.
Okay, right. Anything else, Ed?
No.
Okay. Dave?
So to follow up just on the parking topic and total space, so projecting, say, if that lot fills, will they have any option to park outside of this space, let's say on the street, or is that restricted?
For vehicle auto repair and service at this location, I believe they can, let me just check the zoning code I believe they use the PUD. I have to go back to the PUD and check it quickly, but for auto, I don't think that we have, I don't think that the PUD actually differentiated, like the code does differentiate auto repair and service if there is outdoor component or not, or it's completely indoors. But I believe the PUD just has auto repair and service. It doesn't differentiate if they park outside or inside. That's my memory from, because it's just auto repair and service permitted by right under I-2 PUD, you know?
I'm not sure if you maybe have a misunderstanding. I'm talking about on the street. Can this bleed out?
Oh.
And can they park on the street
Oh,
off-site?
Oh, I'm sorry. Every project that we have, they have to be able to be independently providing their parking requirements. So we are not counting on streets typically. So if they are thinking that they can park on the street, that's a wrong assessment. It should not happen.
Is it allowed
Oh,
on Grove?
okay, sorry, I don't know. Let me just check it.
Yeah, there's on-street parking.
So there is on-street parking?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be the case for anybody who subsequently purchased it after the fact as
Right.
well. If they knew that they were restricted to 35 spots, then they knew they could still spill out and park on Grove.
Okay.
Just looking at it at face value, I mean, truthfully, I really don't have a problem with this because I realistically believe that this is probably going to be adequate under the vast majority of circumstances. And I trust that they are, candid in their model. The whole 5 spaces to 1 bay, I didn't quite understand that math to begin with, where that came from. So
And I don't see there is much space for on-street parking. Doesn't seem like it. There is some in here, but it's random. It's
really
not
look
something
like
that can be counted on.
truthfully, under their model, they have more space to park cars anyway because they're going to be parking indoors as well.
Right.
So the site can hold more than that.
Right. Yeah. In my mind, the key is that it'll be part of the PUD, and in the event that there is a sale to somebody else, the potential buyer would know what they're bound by.
Understand what they're bound to.
What they know what they're bound to. Okay.
And we have different parking requirements for different type of uses. So the use should be exactly the same use as this one. So the parking formula that we have for that use applies to this. If there is like a different parking requirement, then we have to reassess everything. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, you're saying if they changed the type of business that was going to operate out of this building, they would possibly have to come back and do different
Yeah,
parking
if they
requirements.
don't meet that requirement for that use, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're not going to put, unless, you could do 10 less bays and fit, right? But, that's not necessarily the business model. How many employees?
How many employees? Like 3?
4 technicians, porter, and 1 office person. 6 to 7 varies.
6.
Okay.
Okay. Takes out,
And that takes.
out,
that
6 to
takes-
7.
That takes a load off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick question. You said that you limit the number of vehicles on site at any given time. What's that limit?
What they do actually?
Yeah, you said here you limit the number of vehicles on site at any given time?
Yes, exactly. This is mostly restoration of high-end cars, like Ferraris, Maseratis, whatever. And even now, we have submitted some photos. Each car to be restored is a minimum about 4 months. That's the reason they request more, let's say doors, in order the car to go in. The rest, which is actually for working more modern cars, is only by appointment. They leave the car, the customer, so they go. And if you ever drove from 41, you can see TI Imports. They're in business for a long time. There's no customers waiting there, even if you go in.
What is the number? What is your limit number? How many cars do you have at one point in time?
He's the owner.
Okay.
So currently, we have 7 indoor spaces that we work in. So if you include the 7 indoor, the cars that we're working on, we have about 32 cars on site at any given time. give or take a couple of cars. So in the parking lot, about 24, 25-ish.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I wanted to do the math. Thank you. Mhm.
Todd, anything? Ronita? I don't have any other questions. You look like you want to say something.
I'm ready to advance the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move we approve the request by Dinosaurus of Praxis Construction for a parking modification to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces from 70 required to 35 spaces on the property located at 4015 Grove Avenue, consistent with the petitioner's testimony.
We have a motion,
Second?
second. And we don't need to have anything in there about, with the understanding that that's going to be modified in the PUD, do we?
Yes.
Do we need to put that in the motion?
No.
Oh, okay, okay. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, and good luck with your business.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
We're
coming
going to
to
do a nice place there.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next meeting on the calendar is scheduled for the 22nd of January. Audrey, are we going to have anything?
Yeah, as of now, we may have, we will not have a public hearing for January 22nd, but we may have like a minor sign exception or another informal for that date, but nothing public hearing.
But it sounds more likely than not that we will have a meeting.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
All right, I'll open the floor to public. I'll close the floor to the public because there's nobody here. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.